Olá, meus amores! Antes de tudo, gratidão por você estar presente para mais um conteúdo. Eu estou passando aqui rapidinho para lembrar de curtir agora esse vídeo, se inscrever no canal, ativar o sininho para não perder nenhum vídeo incrível que trazemos aqui para você. Combinado? Agora, apertem os cintos, entre na nave estelar e bora pra aventura!
Hi there, I'm Dani Henderson, and yesterday on my beautiful channel, I was hosting the great writer, science and history writer, Andrew Collins, and we were highlighting his new book, The First Female Pharaoh, Sebek Neferu. And during the time, Elena Danaan and many of you guys were in the chat, in the live chat with us. And most of us are aware that Elena Danaan, long-term author, contactee, experiencer, a mystery from the Galactic Federation of Worlds, was for 8 years in Luxor, based largely at the Temple of Karnak. That was mentioned in the live chat, and I just said to people, if you want Elena Danaan to deliver us a broadcast on her experiences at Karnak, then please type 1 in the chat. And all of a sudden it was like, one, these ones. So funny. And so here we are, guys, on April the 7th, 2023. Elena Danaan is going to present to you her experiences at the temples of Karnak in Luxor in Egypt. And my love, over to you.
Thank you, Dani. I never really asked the opportunity to talk about my work in Egypt because they all want to know about the ETs and, you know, my etc. So that's the opportunity. So I'm an archaeologist. I'm a specialized, actually, I'm Egyptologist. I worked in Karnak Temple from 1999 to 2007. As a field archaeologist and epigraphist. I'm going to explain what it was about. I may go slightly over why I became an archaeologist very quickly. I was always, since my young age, drawn towards looking for answers in the past and remembering my lives in Atlantis, and so seeking answers in studying the past. Very drawn to Egypt because Egypt is the continuity of and Atlantis and the Anunnaki civilization. I didn't know all that at the time, but I was really drawn to seek for answers in Egypt, that it would be the key for everything. Of course, I was a kid. I lived in Marseille, south of France. There were no archaeology universities. I was too young to go to Paris. So I underwent studies in art, and when I was 18 years old, which is the major age for, you know, when you major in France, adult, not really, but on the paper you're adult, you're an adult, but you're not. I don't know if I will be one day. Anyway,
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. I went to Paris at the age of 18 to finalize my degree in arts. And when I finalized my degree in arts, I realized that, wait a minute, I'm in Paris. I can do whatever I want. I can study whatever I want. I always wanted to study archaeology. Let's go for it. So I prepared the entry for the School of Archaeology at the Louvre, and I succeeded. I entered the Louvre, and I followed a degree in field archaeology, and then I completed my studies in specializing in Egyptology, the science of ancient Egypt. It was side courses from the Louvre in the Cheops Institute in Paris. So I did that because at that time I needed to work as well to pay my studies. So it was the schedule was more accommodating for me to have a part-time job. It was very tough. Anyway, years and years and years later, I have my degree in Egyptology. And it was 1998. In the last year of my degree, I did 2 sessions of field work for like a trainee, like to finalize my degree in Egypt. Both were in Cairo, and I had to translate that in English. IFAO, the French Institute of Oriental Archaeology. That's it. It's in Cairo. And on my second mission, as a trainee student, I got to work for Zahi Hawass on the Giza Plateau. So I have prepared a series of photos I'm going to share now. And so here we go. Okay. Can you see this slide of me?
Yes. It's all the little tiny ones, though. It's not on the big screen, as in one individual. It's the whole lot.
Okay, no. So that's not the point.
Shall we pause for a moment?
Oh, here, yes.
I will pause my end.
So that's me on the Giza Plateau. You see under my arm the head of the Sphinx.
Yeah.
That was taken in early, I think it was 1997. I was in the middle of my Egyptology studies. I was visiting first Egypt and having a work experience in the French Institute in Cairo. And so that was my first contact with Egypt. And I had something very special with the Sphinx because 2 or 3 years before I visited Egypt for the first time, I had a visit of the Sphinx by a spaceship with Torhan, and I will go over that later. So that was my first visit to Giza, regular way. So in 1998, I met with Dr. Zahi Hawass, and I was very young, and with my braids, I was super excited.
It's a bit concerning. I just want to say that you both kind of look the same today, like 20 odd years later. Did you discover the elixir of life, you know, the eternal flame while you were there?
Oh, that's special energies in Egypt. The guy behind, the man behind was Zahi Hawass' assistant at the time. So I got to train 2 weeks with him while doing drawings, epigraphy. So epigraphy is copying data. That means drawing the artifacts and studying them, studying the graphics and the iconography. So I was trained there, and so I met this man who was wonderful, kind. He's very passionate. So there's a lot of people who criticize him. I understand why, because he has a passion and a fire for his country and for the heritage of his country. And you really need to know him to understand who he is. Zahi Hawass is a passionate man, and he's very knowledgeable, very passionate, and he knows things, and he has tried many times to show the world what's underneath the Giza Plateau, but he was told not to. So I'll get over that later on. So I had a great experience, and one day he told me, "Oh, do you want to see something interesting? You'll be interested. I think you wanted maybe to impress me, or it was my luck." So he took me to the Sphinx, and that's me. The same day, and in front of the stela of the dream stela, and in front of the Sphinx, and he showed me the entrance yeah, there were excavations at the time performed by the Egyptian government. Good. Can you see it when I zoom? Does the zoom work when I zoom the photo?
Yes.
Yes, brilliant. So, you know, it's on the left buttock of the Sphinx. There was this, a hole with a tunnel going down. So I was taken there, and here it is closer. There we go. So that's a paper photo at the time. It was paper photos and no digital.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me that it was in 1998. He told me that they were doing some restoration because there were water infiltrations, so they need to drain because the salt was going up and through the stones. And they found this corridor. So this is the entrance. That's my photos.
Mm.
So you have scaffoldings, and there were workers who were taking the soil, the earth from the excavations and bringing them to outside of the site. And I was asked if I wanted to get in. So it was very difficult because there were a bar of scaffoldings holding the earth, so you need not to touch it because it was unstable. And there was a guy who took me, a worker, head of the excavations, who took me down. He took his galabia in his teeth, as they do, and he had a head lamp. And he was guiding me with his voice, and it was very dark. But the thing is, and that, you know, it's narrow. It was narrow, and it was narrow and suffocating because there was no ventilation, and men were working in there. And I think we'll see more in this one. Men were working in there, and there's a sweat because it was very hot, and no air and dust, and it was very, very suffocating. And I had a panic attack. And I needed to get out. And that is the photo I took of the workers bringing the moktaf, the baskets filled with earth, away from the site. And it was going through to hangars where they were storerooms where they would be examined and see if they find something. That's another thing. So what Zahi told me is that the corridor was going very down, and then there was kind of a hole and 3 rooms, entrance of 3 rooms going in 3 different directions. And I do not know more that time. What I told you about this story about 2 years before, Thorhan took me there, and we went there, and we went by the front pod of the Sphinx. There was kind of a hole, a door, and we went down, and there was these stairs. That's a drawing. Oh, it was in 1991. No, it was not 2 years before, it was way earlier.
Way before you studied at university.
Way before I studied, yes, absolutely. And I was actually just starting the studies at that time. He took me there, and it was very dark, and I pay attention to the architecture I drew at that time. He took me there, and there were storerooms. I learned later that that was one of the halls of records. In one of the store, there were kind of weird technology. I couldn't at the time know what it was, understand. There were ancient artifacts as well. And there was a room with shelves. There were pots with certain of weird liquids, and there was on the bottom shelf of this little room transparent technology with pyramids, spheres, weird devices. And on the middle shelf, there were crystal eggs.
Mm-hmm.
And I was explained that they were storage devices left by a civilization, a very ancient civilization, and they left this data. So you connect with these eggs by touching them, and you interface your consciousness with the crystal eggs, and it's a telepathic knowledge that you receive. So he asked me how to do that. I touched one, and I had visions of the past and of civilization, amazing civilization with pyramids and temples and technology and spaceships passing behind. It was really incredible. It was a historical records of the time. So with that's for another. Let's talk about my life in Egypt.
That's so fascinating, Elena. Sorry, mate. That is just so fascinating. I mean, that you, again, how the French children are raised to keep diaries, to write their experiences, like Jean-Charles Moyen has done also.
Yes.
You know, you're giving us a glimpse into the ancient past, but the real more advanced technology than we even have to this day that is given to the masses, of course, not to the chosen who have chosen themselves. This is so incredible. Now, one might think that this technology that you were shown as a 15, 16-year-old young lady was stored there as a means of a recording, a historical proof of the past, but not necessarily of an Earth root race, but a race from another star system that had come here to help and support us. Would you say that is the case?
Yes, that is the case. Yes, and I explain everything in my book, The Cedars. You'll find also these drawings in my book, The Cedars, and explain all the details of my adventures under the Sphinx with Thorhan. And meeting the guardian there was an extraterrestrial with a feline head. Its name was Oran, and it was very interesting. Yeah. So if you've seen the architecture. Now that's excavated temple of the Pyramid of Khafre. It's exactly the same architecture. Here we go.
Mm-hmm.
So that's way more ancient than we think. So this is Saqqara. So I jumped to Saqqara. I'm still in 1998. As I was working in Cairo, I, as a trainee archaeologist, I was allowed to visit places where normally tourists don't go. So I went to Saqqara and with a colleague, and there we had a paper from Zahir Hawass as what we were allowed to go under the Pyramid of Djoser. That's behind me.
A step pyramid.
That step pyramid. So here we go inside with an inspector. That's inside.
Oh.
That was quite low ceiling, as you can see. That's me here. The inspector in front, my colleague was taking the photos. Very old carvings. You can really see that's pre-Egyptian, you know, and it's where you see still the wooden bits, that sticks, that the timbers that were there to build the column. It's very impressive. So I think, yeah, that's what was me to show them the height of the columns. It was quite a low ceiling. A low ceiling. Then we arrived at a shaft, and we didn't go further. The inspector didn't want to go further, and you can see down below a door.
Yeah.
An entrance to somewhere, I don't know where, but there was another level, lower level, and you see it's very high. Another level of undergrounds. It's linked to the underground complex of the whole pyramid. And I attract your attention on this figurine. Isn't that interesting? And I took a photo of it as well.
Yes, amazing.
Yeah, it looks like an ET. It's quite interesting. So that's my experience in Saqqara. I didn't work in Saqqara. I just visited, but
I'm going to ask you a question though before we move on,
yes,
because there are those that are only just coming to understand. Linking and understanding ancient Egypt is going to help people understand 2023 and all the technologies that have been available for us for hundreds of thousands of years. Now, you went to Saqqara and you went to the step pyramid. Now, can you spell Djoser for us, or Hoser for us, please, so people can...
Djoser,
Yeah.
D-J-O-S-E-R. Djoser.
Who's said to be the first builder of the step pyramid, isn't he?
It was said that it was made for this king. Yes.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, darling.
So then what comes next? Oh, that's me in the reserves of the Cairo Museum with the head of Akhenaton. So I was allowed to train also by drawing and taking measurements, and in the reserves of the Cairo Museum at El Tahrir Square. And that's photo of me with the head of Akhenaton. I was very meditative. It was very moving, you know, to touch these artifacts. And to me, Akhenaton is someone that means something special to me as well. So it was quite amazing experience. I had so many amazing experiences, you know.
Yeah, and
then we arrive. Yes, we arrive in sorry, in 1999. I'm going to have a water. 1999. I have my first training allowance. I have my degree, but I have won a grant for a year work in the temple of Karnak in Luxor. I'm going to get to there, but before this is a photo of a mission I had in Dendera, the temple of Hathor in Dendera. So I'm here. That's the work I was first doing as recording data was you put a plastic, cellophane plastic on the wall, and with a pencil you draw on the plastic to take the information. And there is a codification to indicate where it's cut, where it's recarved, where there is pigments. It's a lot of different codification you need to learn, and so I was doing that. I loved working in Dendera temple. It was so powerful, so mystical. That's where I was trained in Egyptian magic, because my specialization in Egyptology was the New Kingdom and the magic and the rituals in the temples of the New Kingdom. And when I arrived in Dendera, I met with the head researcher who was knowledgeable, trained in magic and Egyptian magic, and she taught me the practical side of it. So it was quite fascinating experience. I made 3 missions in Dendera. So I worked also in the Valley of the Kings. That's me in the Valley of the King, in one of the storerooms, doing the same thing. I have a thin paper on it, and I'm drawing on it. That's one of that was coming from a tomb with the reliefs. So here we go. That's Karnak. That's me going to work in the morning in the temple of Karnak.
Just mind-blowing. Off to work, walking
off
past.
To work.
How many sphinxes are on either side of that pathway there that you have to walk through to get to there?
Don't remember. I don't remember. There was a time in my life where I was able to answer this question, but I don't remember now.
I mean, it seems like 50 on either side, doesn't it, as you're walking into the temple?
There's a lot. There are a lot of sphinxes. So here we go. So I have my little notepad. In my bag, there's a big plastic sheets and all the material I need. There we go. So here we go, Karnak temple. Oh, small photos. Here I am on the top. I wasn't very proud there. I was on the top of the 9th pylon. If you see, I'm above the trees. You see that's the ceiling of the pylon, and it's blood. Oh my God! And drawing something in a block that had been reused that in the masonry of the temple, and well, the ceiling of this monument. And I was just drawing it and trying to see what it was meaning. So this is in the open air museum in Karnak. So it is alabaster chapel. I'm doing the same thing. So I started my work training like this. And in the second year, in 2000, I had a second grant because they were so happy with me. And in the third year, I was offered a function to train as an engineer. I did, I succeeded. And then afterwards, I had a position of civil servant for the CNRS, National Center for Scientific Research in France. So I had the position of engineer epigraphist.
Amazing.
That's a detail of it. What I was doing.
These are the coolest at work photos ever, Elena Danaan.
So that's it. That's me in another part of the temple. I had sometimes to climb on monuments to take measurements and information. This was interesting, exciting. Another photo of me at work. I had to climb scaffolding. I'm not able to do this anymore. I developed vertigo, so, wow. But I could go very, very high. Another photo again, doing this. Now we see clearly what I'm doing. You see clearly what I am doing here. So you need to really take the edge of the carving. And then I started to teach it. So I had students in French, in Arabic. I was fluent. I'm still good in Arabic. And I had one student in Italian, but I could manage. But it was mainly students from France, from the Louvre, and from the University of Cairo, Egyptians.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I'm so enjoying this presentation, and you look so beautiful. You've barely changed. May I ask, yeah, truly, may I ask you, well, I want to remind the viewers here that you speak at least 8 different languages, some ancient and not spoken generally today. Not only do you speak 8 different languages fluently, but this incredible body of knowledge as an archaeologist is such a blessing for us to see and to witness. Thank you for taking the time to share another part of your life, which has obviously led you up into this moment. Can you share with us who the pregnant being is on the relief that you're working on and why she's holding that particular flower?
Yeah, so these 2 beings are the, you would call the genies of the Nile. They are called Happy. Not because they are happy, but it's the name, the Egyptian name. So they are both holding two types of flowers, which represent the south of Egypt and the north of Egypt, and they're tying it together to the Nile, which is the spine of the country. So it depicts a union between the south and the north. And something, yes, you speak about languages. I have a degree in higher Egyptian hieroglyphics. So to do this work, you need to be fluent in hieroglyphs. So I was doing that as well, because you need to be able to decrypt the information, and also to anticipate what you may find, to know exactly if you are what you are looking for. So sometimes you have had text, and I was in charge to translate the text as well. And that was it. And when my mentor and head of research retired, he put me in charge of the section, the epigraphy laboratory section for the Karnak mission, which was a big honor and task. And that's when I ended up to, I was in charge of choosing projects, deciding for projects of researchers and training students also by the same occasion. So I would study a monument and present it to my directors, scientific directors, and say it would be good to study this monument. It would be it would bring something to the understanding of the temple. So they would say yes or not, and if yes, so I was in charge of finding students and selecting students, because they would it was very limited, you know, and they would send me see their curriculum vitae. I had the heartbreaking task of choosing them. I didn't like that, but you know, that was it. That was part of the job. And the work was from September to end of June. So start of September to end of June, non-stop, no holidays. And then we were going back to France because it was the 2-month holidays, July and August, where nobody could work in the temple because the temperature was above 50 degrees Celsius and it wasn't possible to work. The work schedule was 7 o'clock in the morning to 1 o'clock in the afternoon. That was in winter. In summer, we were doing 6 o'clock in the morning to 12, because after 12, even after 10 o'clock, was barely bearable to work outside. But, you know, you're young, you're tough and passionate, so you do it. Here we go. What's next? Oh, yes, that's me in the office. And all the long drawings. And that was my first office. I moved into another one afterwards, the Temple of Karnak, the map behind, all the so many things in there. So me happy out. That was my other office. And when I started to draw, pass everything on computer. So that was what I was doing for publications. So you see well here. You see the little dots means it's broken. You see, so for instance, some data is missing. So it's interesting. Things like this.
So just on that screen, so, you know, let's bear in mind again that you have just let us know in full detail that you were actually in charge of translation of all hieroglyphs. I mean, just take a second there. You were in charge. Once the head retired, it was you that was chosen to translate the ancient hieroglyphics and then train personnel with your training to do the same. That is just unreal, along with your 8 other spoken languages. Could you just briefly give us an idea of what we are looking at on that screen of hieroglyphic drawings, please?
Yes, so this is an inscription of, I don't remember where it comes from, but it's probably, I think at the time I was working on the door, it was the structure of the door, and it's the title. So the owl is for with or in. It depends on what you're looking at. Negem is so negem is this. It's a flame. It's like a kind of a torch. So that would mean in the flame or with the flame, but it's not a complete sentence. And then you have Nejimu, it's the gold. That's the gold, the flame, with the flame of the gold, probably with the spark of the bright spark of the gold, the metal, and that's part of a sentence. So I do not remember what was the rest above and below the screen, but that's what you see there. Here we go. And okay. Oh, that's me. That's a funny photo. I wanted to include it. Sometimes that's me coming back from work. You see all the dust. Sometimes there were sandstorms in the temple, and that was very, very, very difficult. Very difficult. Oh, you see a photograph probably of what I was working on the, you see on the left here. That's the door I was working on at the time. So yeah, you come back like that dust everywhere. It's very dusty, very dusty.
Wow.
So that's where, you know, I have hundreds of photos, but I had to do a selection. So that was my last, during my last year there in 2007. The statue head that you see is now in the Luxor Museum.
In the Luxor Museum, wow. And who is that?
Yeah, I think it was an Amenemhat king, maybe the first or the second. So that's what I was doing, taking measurements and with drawing the sculpture. You see the paper with the drawing below. So we have all the artifacts in Tupperwares in little boxes. So I take a box and I open it and I draw it. I take measurements and I put it back, and that's was a part of the work. And so there's a story of these heads. I think there's another one here. And when I'm doing it, some of our, I think this one is in Luxor Museum. Now the other ones have gone to Cairo Museum. And I can proudly say that I saved these heads.
Oh.
And it cost me my job.
Yes.
Yeah, I described this story in my book, The Cedars. I think it's the last photo, yes. I one day climbing on the walls for my work, I saw this strange black stone on this the stand, you know, golden sandstone of the temple. That was weird. So I walked on the top of the wall and I saw these heads. It was about a dozen of statues' heads, and I went, wow, that's hidden here to be stolen, because that's how they do. They take something and they take an artifact and they put it somewhere, and then they put it somewhere, and that after a while you forget where it is, and you forget it even exists. That's how they slowly steal stuff. And yeah, antique traffickers. So I went, okay. I went to the Egyptian head director of antiquities of the temple. I went in his office. And before that, I went to my office and I took my student with me, and she was terrified. I said, listen, do you want a cool project? That's her taking the photos, by the way. You want a cool project? You want me to teach you how to take 3D measurements of a statue's heads? She went, oh yeah, great. And then I said, but I need to warn you, I'm going to warn now the director of antiquities that these are statue heads that are probably in the process to be stolen. And she was terrified. So I had to warn her. But I needed my student to go and see the director and say this. I said, could I have the opportunity, please, to draw with my student the statue heads that are on that wall in the sanctuary, that place? And he looked at me and went, I'm going to start sharing screen. Stop share. Here we go. And he went, what? What statue heads? I went, the ones on the wall there. I was playing it innocent.
Yeah.
And he went, and the coin dropped. He went, and he was the Egyptian director of antiquities of the whole West Bank and East Bank. He was nice. And he liked my integrity. And he said, okay, can you come with me and show me where they are? Of course, yes. Showed him, and he was fuming. He was red. He was angry. And he said, thank you so much. He took my hand. He shook my hand. Thank you so much. So do we have the authorization to draw them? He said, of course you have. And I will make sure that they will be, these statue heads will be taken to the storage facility, and you will have work there to archive them,
Golly.
document them.
Yeah.
And I went, yes,
Yes.
done it.
Goodness.
Done it. So that's why the photos you were seeing. And the thing is that after that, my French bosses tormented me to the point they managed to get rid of me. Why? Because I'm going to tell you this story now. Again, everything is in my book, The Cedars. I've written all the details of it. I had two bosses, French bosses. There was an architect and a scientific director who wasn't often there. He was an academician. Two French men. The first one, he was a notorious pedophile, and I can say it, and nobody could catch him because he had protection. He was bringing young boys at night in the mission, and everyone could see that, and anyone who denounced him was fired and had problems. So he had super protection. He was once he was in prison in Egypt, and the following day he was out. We were wondering why, and what are these protection that he has? Well, one day I disliked the character. Everyone hated him, but you couldn't say anything. And one day I had finished my work, and I was waiting for colleague at the entrance of the temple. There was a kind of bit higher up ground. And I saw him walking out of the temple, very nervous, very angry. Yeah. And I went, oh God, oh boy, I cannot avoid him. So I'm gonna say hi to him and say, hi, how are you doing? And I felt I needed to be diplomatic, and I say, oh, is everything okay? You look stressed. Is everything okay? And he said, oh, I'm so fed up with these Freemasons fighting to own Karnak. And I was, oh, okay. Okay. Then in the same year, there was a vote that needed to be done to vote the renewal or the change of the scientific director, this higher guy in Paris, that everyone hated as well because he was a very tyrannic person and he liked to scare girls, especially young girls. And he never scared me, so he didn't like me. And we were hassled, all the personnel, to vote for him. And I you know me, if you force me to do something, I will do the contrary. So I vote blank. I vote a white paper. We had all this reunion, and we had to vote, and we had so much pressure to vote him as still stay our director. And we were two people daring vote blank. Me and one of the architects. The other one of this guy didn't come back the next year. So okay. Oh boy, the vote was not it was not anonymous. We were all around the table and giving our paper. And the secretary was opening the paper, and when they saw mine was blank, which was in my right, so he nearly made it, but after the reunion, when I walked out of the office, and he walked to me. He was tall and strong, and he said, if you are not with us, you are against us. And I went, oh, whatever. I said, oh, fine, whatever. And I walked away. He didn't scare me, but his words, I remember them to this day. Because what they've done to me, Dani.
I know. I know.
I learned by Michael Sala that William Tompkins described that Freemasons were stealing antiques to bring to America. So I think the heads, after the story of the story of the heads was just after.
You got that.
They have the power. They have what they have had until now. Power to do anything they want to you, anything they want. They anything. You won't even know it's them. They traumatized me. They made me flee Egypt, making me believe that I would be put in prison because they set me a trap. They sent a wrong email in my name that was inviting terrorism. What was it? So the computer went to France, and they found out very, very quickly that where it was coming from, and that was innocent. So the thing was, just closed. And then the director was fired after this story. The architects and the scientific director, and also the French consul in Cairo, who was the boyfriend of the architect, and accomplice to scare me. So they had set this up for me. They scared me so much, saying that I would go to Egyptian prison, that I would be raped and tortured. And I had to flee quickly. And thanks to the CNRS, I was well received and well protected. And they found out very quickly what was the problem. And they're the great French organization, the CNRS, they're really, really good. They were very good with me.
Beautiful.
I really thank them. But, so I spent, on my way out of Egypt, because they had traumatized me, I spent many hours hiding. I risked nothing. All this story was imaginary. There was, it wasn't real. They just made me believe I was in danger, and I wasn't. I spent half of the night hidden behind a couch in the Cairo airport, thinking that the army was after me. They weren't. There was no story at all. It was all made up by them, And so it was all in my head. They scared me that much. But I was so traumatized that I couldn't take the plane or approach an airport for at least 4 years after that. And when Zahi Hawass learned about that, he defended me. And I think if they were all fired, it's because of him, because he liked me. And he knew because he hates the Freemasons, because they are the ones who just stopped him to speak, as well. So he wrote to me, Zahi Hawass wrote to me, and he said, listen, I support you and I want you as my assistant in Cairo. And it took me time because I couldn't take the plane. I was in bits. I was destroyed. And to me, it was too much. I couldn't go near an airport. I couldn't even see a plane. I was so traumatized. And coming back to Egypt, it was beyond my forces, my strength. So I told him, thank you, but no. And I regretted. But maybe it wasn't my destiny. And he said, are you sure? You're sure? You're welcome anytime. Work for me. And I hate these bastards. And that's why I like the man. He has integrity. He has.
That's good to know. Wow, Elena. That's a tough story to hear. And again, guys, it is in Elena's great book that we are doing a series on. It's called The Cedars, Return of the Gods. The pictures and photographs that she's sharing today, some of them are here. inside the book that you will get to and we will cover over the coming couple of weeks. Elena, thank you for sharing that harrowing event. I know you were so terrified and have had some PTSD from that.
Yes.
I thank you seriously for being so courageous. And now look at you, you're popping up and down on spaceships to Jupiter and everywhere else through Stargates. So, you know, it certainly hasn't stopped your life permanently or sometime.
Stargates are not fun, guys.
They're a bit bumpy, aren't they, darling? Stargates.
Anyway, it's horrible. I don't like that. Anyway, so yeah, it's time to ask me any questions on my work there. I don't know. Go ahead.
So you were largely focused on what we know to be the New Kingdom. And so there are people that have been led to believe that Karnak is the sanctuary of the all-powerful god, the Egyptian god Amun, or Amun-Ra, who is also known as, or Amun-Kamutef. Can you validate that? And can you tell us who was Amun?
Yes, so Amun means, in fact, is Imen in hieroglyphs in ancient Egyptian. It means the hidden one. So he is supposed to be born in Luxor on the West Bank on the mound of Jemeh. It's under their El Medinet temple. I had actually the opportunity to assist in excavations there with the Institute of Chicago with Ray Johnson. Nice team. Anyway, Imen, the hidden one. So why is he the hidden one? Because he's what we call a Chtonian god or entity. Chtonian mean of the earth, from underground. He comes from the underground, lives in the underground. And he's hidden because he's in the wind. That's why he has feathers to represent that his consciousness can be carried by the air, through the air. It can be in your mind, can come in your mind. It's very insidious, you know. It's not really an entity of the light it is an entity of power, of control, and of power. He was very feared. He became Amun was when you go back to the origin of the gods, the entities, he was linked with the Enlil and Marduk, especially Marduk side of the Anunnaki. So it was the dark side. So Amun, Imen, the hidden one, that's his was an entity of the place. He lived there underground. Then Amun-Ra. Ra is the sun god, but in fact Ra is a title, means the supreme ruler. Ra was the sun god, the entity sunlight, not Aton, it's something different. It's the whole almighty consciousness. Ra is the sun disk. It was worshipped in Heliopolis in the north of Egypt. And when Egypt became powerful in the New Kingdom, there was a decision to link the cults of the north and cults of the south, and Amun and Ra fused in one, Amun-Ra. It was to simplify, because for the common of mortals, because which entity we need to worship, which one? Anyway, Amun-Ra. And Amun-Kamutef means the bull of his mother.
That's a dainty label now. Very dainty.
Yes, that's very complex. We need to go over our understanding and our mind way of thinking. It means the bull of his mother. That means the one who fertilizes his own mother, that he's born through her. It's very complex, but it's all metaphorical.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the temple of Karnak, the temples, because there were many temples in it, temples dedicated to the allegory of certain kings, a temple of Amun that was a main sanctuary, a temple of Ptah, temple of different entities. I liked to go sometime, have a break, and go at the back of the temple. There was a place called the Temple of Amun, who listens to the prayers. I was there and I could feel presences. I could feel the priest presences. I even had a contact with an ancient priest there. I could learn about things, but you wouldn't talk about that there because I was scientist. So, you know, you don't talk about these things or you're fired. So it was keeping that to myself. What was interesting is that the sanctuary of the temple, well, the Egyptian temples are built as such. In the whole rest of the world, you would protect the sacred from the profane by building enclosure walls for the chaos that is outside not to come and bother the order and the harmony of the sacred that is inside of the temple. Not in Egypt. It was the contrary. In Egypt, you would protect the profane from what was happening in the temple, because what was happening in the temple could cause chaos outside. Why? Because they knew how to invoke entities to come and inhabit statue in the sanctuary. And they would welcome the entity in the morning and bid him farewell at night. That's what they would do. And the power was like a power plant, a nuclear plant. So that was very interesting. That's who Amun was. Not a fun entity. Not I didn't have a good experience with him.
Mm-hmm. Fascinating. There is a theory that Amun became Amen.
Yes, I believe in this theory. Many of my colleagues are mocking it. Because Amun was one of the negative Anunnaki. And the negative Anunnaki, Enlil, Ninurta, and Marduk, were the creators of the Roman Catholic religions and religions of the books, etc. They were playing Yahweh and saying Amen, which is, I believe, strangely refers to the name of the hidden one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just hearing that, the hidden one, it freezes your bones. It's not good, you know?
Yeah, it's because it alludes to feelings in the DNA, in the programming of Satan, Lucifer, the dark one, the hidden one, the one down below in the hell, the this, the that. So it does conjure up those feelings. So thank you for giving your thoughts on Amen. You'll notice how every single Christian, Catholic, etc. is encouraged to say Amen, Amen, Amen. And you have to wonder why. Where do these root words come from? And every person would do well to really research, but don't Google it. Now, the other day, just as an aside, you gave me permission to use an ancient Anunnaki or an ancient Sumerian phrase that protects from dark energy, which was Gigim Hol Bara. So when people went to research that phrase, Gigim Hol Bara, they used Google, and Google came back with to eat food out. Now, if you ever wanted proof of how you are controlled, and every piece of information, guys watching, is stopped and covered and coveted and taken and hidden because people have decided to put themselves as the masters of the universe, which is no more. You will find things like that for your own proof. So thank you for that. Amun, amen. Now,
Gigim Hul Bara, it's Sumerian, ancient Sumerian. It's a repelling spell for evil entities. It means evil, spirit, fuck off.
Yes, exactly.
Gigim is evil, Hul is spirit, bad spirit, Hul. You know, the Sumerian has passed into Egyptian and into Arabic. You find again these words in Hul, in alcohol. Alcohol means the bad spirit. Alcohol, that's why we call also some alcohols spirits. Alcohol, it's from the Arabic and the Sumerian Hul, or Hul, the negative spirit. And Barra had perdured in Arabic. It means out. So don't Google.
Yeah,
Go
don't waste your time. Yeah, don't waste time Googling, boogling. Use another browser like DuckDuckGo. I mean, I think they're all infiltrated, but I think there's a little less retards running those. I would like to think. You showed us a photograph during that presentation of Akhenaton, the beautiful head of Akhenaton, an aspect of it. Now, just for those that don't know, because many people that see this, they already know most of what we're sharing, and that's so great, and I love that. But there's always going to be new people coming to information like this, or having their minds go in another direction because they never considered certain things. So we know that Akhenaton was the beloved husband of Nefertiti, and it is said that they had a son, Tutankhamun. We are used to hearing saying Tutankhamun, but lately I have been breaking that down because of the vibratory frequency, harmonic, and sound, which we're coming to understand more and more what sound does using the ancient technology. And it's Tutankhamun.
So it wasn't his original name. Here is, you know, the Egyptians, they are based on an Anunnaki colony. So it's the same. You have a birth name. It's like Ia and Ki. You have a birth name and you have a title name when you go to a function. So the young pharaoh that we know as Tutankhamun, it was the last name he bore on earth. His birth name was, it's written Neb Keberura. It was pronounced Nubuhupururia. It means the master of the manifestations of the sun. It's very poetic. It was very poetic. When he became king, he was given his king title, which was Tut-Ankh-Eten, because he was king when the religion of Aton, what we say Aton, it's Eten, was still working up. Tut means image, Ankh means life or living, and a divinity. So he was consecrated living image of Eten, which is the creator source, living image of source. That's very nice. When everyone was slaughtered in Tel El Amarna and the clergy of Amun came back, he was a good puppet to manipulate, and they changed his name to Tut-Ankh-Amun. The thing Amun, Eten, it's very interesting. I need to develop a little bit quickly there. At the time when Akhenaton became king, it was a very difficult political period in Egypt because the clergy of Amun had taken over the power of the pharaohs. The priest of Amun, the clergy of Amun in Karnak, was way more powerful than the king himself. And why? Because they had developed such worship, and they were so powerful because they had convinced the pharaohs that everything that was taken from the wars as, you know, a treasure coming back, the slaves, the gold, everything, the resources, needed to go to the god Amun to celebrate him. So the clergy of Amun was super rich and they were super powerful, and they had So that was at the time of Amenhotep IV, Akhenaton's father reign, Amenhotep III. The clergy of Amun had come up with an oracle. So listen to that. At the back of the temple of Amun, who listens to the prayers, where I liked to go and be on my own, they would take out a statue of Amun. They would put it on like a podium, and the priest would hold the podium, and they would go forward and backward regarding to if the god would say yes, they would go forward. If he was saying no, they would go backwards. And that's totally made up, and it's obvious for who listens to that. But for the people at the time, they were all brainwashed. They would be, oh, the god has spoken. So they were even able to say who should be the next pharaoh. The god said. So that was enough. That was too much. Unfortunately, at the time, Amenhotep III, the pharaoh, he had his palace in Malkata, just across the Nile from Karnak Temple. He was a big, fat, lazy lump.
He was a big, fat, lazy lump. So well put. Oh my God.
But his wife, Queen T, when you look at her statues, she looks like extraterrestrial. She looks like a Syrian, like an Tashkeru, triangular face, wide eyes. I was shocked by that the first time I saw her. I went, she's an alien hybrid. And then I went, oh no, she's Tashkeru, Series B. And no, all made sense. Anyway, she was a strong little woman, you know, and she was holding everything. She was in control, in power, because her husband was worthless. She had a first son with him, and she trained him as to be king and trained him against the clergy of Amun. And the boy was very well trained. He was going to be a very powerful pharaoh and just stop all this nonsense. He got assassinated. So second son, who wasn't made for power, they say, was a very spiritual person, Nefertiti, Akhenaton. Beautiful are the manifestation of the sun. He took the name of Akhenaton, first Amenhotep IV, and then AKHENATON. The rising in, and is in, the one who rises in source, in the Eton. AKHENATON. And he was well trained by his mother, and the mother was behind, and she went with him all the steps of the way, and she went with him she moved to Tel El Amarna with her son and the whole family. And at the moment she died, everything went belly up. As long as T was alive, everything was going well. So Akhenaton went into a crusade against the clergy of Amun. The power of the pharaoh needed to be restored. Power of the empire needed to be restored. He didn't manage it well because he wasn't trained for power. You know, he was a mystic. He was but he managed. If he made decrees to close all the temples, especially the temples of Amun. All the riches of the temple of Amun, of the clergy, was given back to the state and used in better ways to build monuments or to do more useful things. And the clergy of Amun, they hated him. They hated him. Well, they were all assassinated. It ended like that. Well, long story short, the clergy of Amun was restored. And we see here the remnants of two factions of I would say, extraterrestrial people who are fighting over the custody of this part of the world. It's very interesting. At the time when I was working in Egypt, you don't talk about extraterrestrials there because you're fired. You know, you're fired. You can't. I mean, there are these very influential and bad people who hold all the scientific institution in France.
Even though there's thousands of years of hieroglyphs everywhere, where you can clearly see these are other beings, because we draw what we see. That even though it was still covered up to this day. Please continue, lovely.
Yeah, I was in charge of archiving the decoration of a whole very long wall that runs between 3 pylons, and behind the wall the tourists never go there, so nobody knows it's there. But I took the information from this wall, and so it was the return of a famous battle, not the Battle of Kadesh, another battle where the king Ramses II went to the shore, the banks of Mesopotamia, and they brought back slaves and people to Egypt, and one of them was taller than everyone else and had a long, elongated skull. And I have the drawing, I have everything, I took my work with me. And I was asking everyone, who's that? And he went, no, it's nothing, it's nothing. It's not nothing. Who's this guy? He comes from Mesopotamia. No, it was an omerta. You don't talk about these things. But I mean, hello, it's carved, it's there, it's old, it's an evidence. No, it's nothing. That's wrong, you know?
So wrong.
That's wrong.
So wrong. Elena, Ramses II, is this number one, the Ramses in the Bible, and also number one, the man who was so devoted to his queen, Nefertiti?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. She was his first queen, his love of his life. Ramses II lived very old. He actually died of a teeth rage infection. He had more than 100 children. He had over 100 sons, and probably as much daughters. He had a harem, of course, not with the same woman.
He's been busy. Been very busy.
Yeah, so his wife Nefertiti, yes, he dedicated her tomb in the Valley of the Queens is stunning. Yeah. So beautiful, the colors. Oh, that's something you must not miss if you go to Luxor. Go and see the tomb of Nefertiti, because it's well preserved against fungus and too much people. You need to book in advance, at least a year in advance, to get the chance to be in the 200 people who can see it per year.
One of the things I love about Ramses II, well, there's lots of references to him in the Holy Bible, the St. James's, the Bible that people read. And when you're in Egypt, if you look at a giant image of Ramses II, because he did like himself, I mean, he did have a bit of an ego, you know, he did make sure he was going to be all over Egypt. If you look at his knee, he will often have a small version of Nefertiti at his knee. And there's so many reliefs like that, aren't there? And statues, monolithic stones with Nefertiti depicted. So it's like an ancient love story. A little, like, but not too similar to Akhenaton and Nefertiti and what we know about them. Going back to Nefertiti and Akhenaton, Elena, we are in very similar times right now. It isn't the fact that it could seem like we're there, darling, we're there and we know it. Is there anything that you could say to us about the last time with Nefertiti and Akhenaton, when we were in the same position we are with our world on all levels? Is there a difference that you're seeing? Is there anything that you know that you could share at this?
Oh my God, Dani, what an astounding, enlightened observation, I would say.
Oh, then it's time.
Wow. You're the best.
You're the best.
You're the best.
And people,
you're the best.
You the best.
You're the best.
Oh, I get you in a headlock. Listen,
So listen to that.
yeah, we don't keep things back from you guys. It comes out when it's supposed to.
Nefertiti and Akhenaton fought to death to take down an evil clergy that had more power than any governments, that was controlling everything, that was richer than any other governments. They were worshipping an evil ET entity, and who was, we know now behind, we know it's Enlil. It was Enlil behind Amun. They did play different roles, you know. Enlil and Marduk were splitting roles. This entity was at the base of a religion of the state that was more powerful than the state, and they were just controlling everyone. Akhenaton and his entourage fought to take this down. But because they didn't do it right, in the right way, in too much of a spiritual way, there was so much dark behind and forces that they failed, and this dark clergy came back into power and has still been in power. It's now called the Vatican. And now you compare this to our times, where we are still fighting this evil entity and it's the institution that they created. And now here's the difference. The evil entity that is behind, the hidden one, has been taken off-world, taken out, has been taken out. Enlil has been taken out. Marduk is gone for since a while. Ninurta is gone. The heads have been cut. So the clergy, the powerful clergy, more powerful than any government on the planet, is crumbling down. And this time we are winning it because we are doing it the right way. By action, by military alliances, and we have help from the stars. And this time we win. So that's the difference. Well compared. It's absolutely brilliant, Dani.
Like we both know, it's time for everything to come out. Nobody's going to be held back. Nobody's going to be stopped. All the information that we have, it is our duty to share it, all of it, and not decide, well, the humans aren't ready. We'll give them another 5 years. Nobody has the right, and shame on those that have and did and do, because we're coming for your asses. I'm glad that we went there. It was really important to do that. I love yesterday the encouragement that you got to share your experiences here at Karnak, the Temple of Karnak in Luxor in Egypt, and that we can look at the past and we can match it alongside this day, April 7th, 2023, and be fully informed that the technology that is given to us, the people, the humans in this day and age, is vastly less superior than what we had in the time of Akhenaton and Nefertiti, for example. And it is going to be very interesting for people to hear the words, ding dong, Enlil has gone.
Yes.
And I think sometimes people get confused with, well, wasn't Marduk Enki's son? You know, and they think that
Yes.
Enlil and Marduk, who worked together, you know, Enki's son lost him. But even having said all of that, you know, who cares right now? It's not about putting one God in front of another. It's about humanity taking back humanity, about humanity taking back its planet and living in harmony and love, not about a friggin' singular God. Nobody cares about one God.
Dani, and it's foremost of in front of everything, realizing that they were no gods.
Oh yeah.
There has never been any gods, only extraterrestrials playing gods. There's never been any gods. It was all illusion, control, manipulation, you know? And what Akhenaton tried to make people understand is that there is no idols. Don't stop worshipping idols. Look at the sun, and then you see the true divinity. And you know why he chose the sun. Of course, the stars are linked with portals to source, but that was metaphorically to say you cannot look at it. It's so powerful, it burns through you. That's the creator. And stop worshipping gods. There are no gods, there are no temples, they're useless. Stop statues. It's BS, you know. That's what he was teaching, trying to do. And we are now today where many like us, like Alex Collier was one of the first, say, stop worshipping false gods. There are no gods. They're just a source and a divinity that is flowing through everything and everyone. And we're realizing that now, and that these institutions, it was all control and illusion and manipulation. So, you know, we are there today again. That time we win.
That's right. That's right. And as the illusions drop, we come more and more into the rightful beauty and amazing technology that we individual humans are. You know, and it's things like, you know, I'm seeing all these Christian, you know, like shows like, you know, you shouldn't have crystals. Yeah, you should, because you're actually part crystalline. How could you not have something that you already are? This is part of the natural makeup. The pineal gland in us has beautiful calcite crystals around it that create piezoelectricity, the natural normal connection to self, to others, to fields, to frequencies, and to the ultimate source, the creative source. We're still looking at beautiful free energy machinery like the Deems device that is so similar to the Egyptian Ankh, A-N-K-H, the key to life. There is symbols and signs everywhere. To worship a person, to put all the pressure of liberation. You know, there are so many people that say, we can't wait till so-and-so is back in power and this and that. What about you, Angel Cake? What about you and your own individual power, your worthiness, your value, your beauty, your independent liberty? No man or woman or other is going to tell you who and what you are. That's what you get to decide. And this is the most beautiful time of liberation for humanity on our planet. You know, and it's so funny. It's so easy to spot the games, the created operations that don't serve humanity. You know, if you have somebody saying, come over here and sign up to this, whereas you've never done that. You've said, I'm giving you information from a team of military personnel who have an interest, they're Pleiadians largely, an interest in supporting planet Earth. Their message is, don't you dare worship any one of us, you know, because we're so programmed. Oh, I'm not worthy. Oh, woe is me. Oh, a bright light. Oh, you know, you've never bought that information. You've never said that, but others do. So it's really easy at this time to really have a look around. But ultimately, you know, anyone's worshipping anyone, hoping they're going to lead the way. They're probably in for a bit of a spanking. You know, they're going to watch everybody else come into their own beautiful power of self. Because, and you know, I mean, Jesus, the Christ, didn't want people to be enslaved. What was his message? Gentle, lovingness. Kick someone's ass if you need to. He went in the temple and kicked over the worshipping of the idols and kicking over tables of money, because he could see that was where humanity was. That's why he came here, to say, listen, you Muppets, what do you think you're doing? We are the beautiful ones. We are the Christed, beautiful light beings. We are, you know, worthy. Humans are just the most amazing beings in the whole of the flipping universe. I'm so excited this information is out, Elena Danaan. I really am. Is there any...
Yeshua said two things. He taught that the kingdom of God is within you. So don't need any temple or anything. And he said, all that I do, you can do too. And that was, he was like Akhenaton. He tried to fight, to collapse the Roman Empire, you know. Yeah, anyway, it's a long story.
Well, I think that we will leave this beautiful drop today here. And it came so spontaneously yesterday when Andrew Collins, the great history and science writer, I was interviewing him about the first female pharaoh, because he wrote the book on Sobek Neferu. And you were in the live chat with lots of the beautiful viewers that are often there. It's always so high vibe. It's always so loving, isn't it, in our live chats? And so many wanted to hear your your history of your work for 8 years in Luxor at the Temple of Karnak. I think Dot's MC from Ireland, who's always such a positive force in the live chats and so gentle, said we could call this the Karnak Chronicles, but I definitely feel you have certainly chronicled 2 different timelines for us today in this broadcast. May I come to you for final words and wisdom, please?
Well, here are the final times of the apocalypse, the revelation of what is hidden into the light, and that is what is happening. And the dark is fighting, the beast is fighting nail and teeth, claws and fangs to stop that and to try to damage the most people as possible. All of those who bring the truth, who bring this knowledge into the light, are teared apart by the dying beast. It's really agonizing. It's just dying, and it's just like, you know. But we're still there where we need to finish the job, to stand up as sovereign being. No God, no master. We are ourselves, and we have all the power in ourselves. Okay, crystal technology has been hidden from us because it allows us to produce free energy, liberate ourselves, and modify the structure, the holographic structure of reality. Crystals power spaceships. Crystal, create free energy. And that's what they do. And that's why they want you to hate crystals. But it's like the awakening of the Kundalini, the 2 serpentine coils within us that echoes with the 2 coils of the DNA, and the explosion, the apotheosis, the explosion of the pineal gland, the vortex that allows the soul to fly. That's the caduceum. And all of this has been demonized because they don't want you to know about it. When Adam and Eve were cast from Eden by Yahweh, well, because they had eaten from the tree of knowledge, what was it about? And he had activated them and showed them the full extent of the human power. And Enlil, who now we know played Yahweh, was so furious that he wanted to kill these humans. And instead of that, they escaped from the Eden, which is the biodome, so of the Nibiru ship. So all of this has been turned, twist upside down, that you never find out what is your true power. But now this is over. Now too many people have awakened. You cannot unknow what you have known. So now people embrace who you are. You do not need churches. You are your own temple. And you have the direct connection to source because you are a fractal of it. So be who you are and just connect. And history is here to show us the mistakes. And now we know, and we won't repeat them. So in love, go forth.
That's wonderful. In love, go forth. Elena Danaan, it is always such a joy to be with you, sit with you, and share your body of knowledge that has helped so many countless people and continues to this very day. And we applaud you for the work that you have done. Those of us that recognize it for what it is, which is the real encyclopedia of the true history of our planet. And there are many others that stand alongside you that also bring truth, and most of them appear on this channel. My name is Dani Henderso. Thank you again so much for being here with us and enjoying this wealth and breadth of knowledge and experience in real time. We send you our love, and we will see you soon.